What if I told you that you can be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone? That empty feeling in your chest, as if no one really understands you, is not your fault. In fact, it happens to a lot more people than you might think. Today you will find out why this happens, and more importantly, how to transform this loneliness into true connection. I will reveal 10 secrets that no one has ever told you about how to end this feeling of emptiness that accompanies you every day. If you don't learn this information, you could spend the rest of your life feeling disconnected from the people around you, even though you are always with someone. But if you stay with me until the end, you will understand exactly what you need to do to never feel this alone again. Get ready, because what I'm about to tell you will completely change the way you see your relationships and your own loneliness. Tip 1. Learn the difference between being alone and feeling lonely. Many people confuse physical loneliness with emotional loneliness, and this confusion can be the root of a lot of unnecessary suffering. When you are physically alone, it simply means that there are no other people around at that moment. But feeling lonely is something completely different. It is a feeling of disconnection, of not being understood, of not having anyone who really knows you inside out. You can be at a party full of people, talking and smiling, but inside you feel a huge void, as if you are a stranger in the middle of everyone. This difference is crucial because we often try to solve the wrong problem. We think we need more people around us, more invitations, more social activities. But what we really need are deeper, more genuine connections. It's better to have a sincere conversation with one person who understands you than to spend hours talking superficially with 10 different people. To put this into practice, start by noticing when you feel most alone. Is it when you're physically alone at home or when you're around other people? Most people find that they feel most alone when they're in company, but without any real connection. A lady I know noticed that she felt most alone during family dinners, where everyone was talking at once, but no one was really listening to each other. The benefit of understanding this difference is liberating. You stop forcing yourself to accept any company just so you don't feel alone. You start to value moments of solitude as opportunities to get to know yourself better. And most importantly, you start to seek relationships based on quality, not quantity. When you understand that emotional loneliness cannot be resolved with physical presence alone, you open the way to building connections that truly matter and that will fill that void you feel in your heart. Tip 2. Discover how your social masks are making you feel isolated. We all wear social masks in different situations, but when these masks become our only way of interacting with the world, they create an invisible barrier between us and others. These masks are edited versions of who we are, versions that we believe are more acceptable or likable to others. The problem is that when you consistently present a false version of yourself, people connect with the mask, not the real you. Imagine that you always present yourself as the strong person who never needs help, who is always fine, who solves everything on her own. People around you start to see you that way and never offer support or show vulnerability to you. They don't know that behind this mask, there is a person who also feels fear, sadness, uncertainty. The result, you get trapped in a character that is not you, surrounded by people who don't know who you really are. To identify your masks, notice how you act differently in different environments. Maybe at work, you're always the cheerful and positive person, even when you're feeling terrible. At home, maybe you're always the person who takes care of everyone, even when you need care. With friends, maybe you're always the one who listens to other people's problems, but never shares your own. A practical example of how this works. A woman always presented herself as someone who had her life figured out, never admitting difficulties or asking for advice. Over time, she noticed that people stopped opening up to her and including her in more intimate conversations. When she gradually began to show her vulnerabilities, her friendships became much deeper and more genuine. The benefits of slowly shedding your masks are incredible. You attract people who connect with the real you, not some made-up version of you. Your relationships become more authentic and fulfilling. Most importantly, you stop wasting energy maintaining a persona and can use that energy to build genuine connections that truly make you feel seen and understood. Tip 3. Stop expecting others to guess your needs. One of the biggest causes of emotional loneliness is the unspoken expectation that those around you should automatically know what you need, how you feel, and what you expect from them. This expectation creates a frustrating cycle where you feel misunderstood and neglected, while others have no idea that there is a problem. It's like you speak a language that no one else understands, but you keep saying it the same way, hoping that one day someone will crack the code. This tendency often stems from the belief that if someone truly cares about us, they should pick up on our cues, our moods, our unspoken needs. But the truth is, people aren't mind readers. Everyone is dealing with their own worries, their own problems, and their own distractions. Expecting someone to guess that you need a hug, a conversation, or just company is a surefire recipe for disappointment and loneliness. To change this, you need to learn to communicate your needs clearly and directly. This doesn't mean being demanding or dramatic, but rather being honest about how you feel and what you need. Instead of getting upset because no one asked how your day was, you can start the conversation by telling them about your day. Instead of waiting for someone to notice that you're sad, you can say that you're having a hard time and would like to talk. A real-life example: a woman was always upset because her adult children didn't call her often enough. Instead of becoming resentful, she started calling them first and expressing that she would like to talk more often. She discovered that they wanted more contact too, but they thought she was always busy and didn't want to bother them. The benefits of this change are transformative. You stop accumulating resentments based on uncommunicated expectations. The people around you become closer because they know how to support you. Most importantly, you become the protagonist of your relationships, creating the connections you desire instead of passively waiting for them to happen. Now, before continuing, if this content is making sense to you, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell so you don't miss the next videos, and tell me here in the comments where you are watching from. Your participation helps me a lot to continue bringing content that really makes a difference in your life. Tip 4. Understand why you attract superficial relationships. There's a pattern that many people follow without realizing it. They create and maintain superficial relationships and then wonder why they feel lonely even though they have lots of people around them. This happens because you may be unconsciously sending signals that you prefer shallow conversations, that you don't want to delve into personal topics, or that you're not available for more intimate connections. It's as if you have an invisible sign saying, "Keep your distance up," but at the same time, you crave closeness. These signs can be very subtle. Maybe you always change the subject when someone tries to talk about feelings, or you always say, "I'm fine," when asked how you are, even when you're not. Maybe you're always the first one to leave on dates, or you always keep conversations focused on outside topics like work, the weather, or the news, avoiding anything personal or emotional. Another common pattern is to always take on the role of counselor or listener, but never allow yourself to be vulnerable or ask for support. You become the person everyone tells their problems to, but no one really knows you because you never open up. This creates imbalanced relationships where you give a lot but receive little in the way of true emotional connection. To change this, observe your own patterns of social behavior. Notice how you respond when someone asks you a personal question. Notice whether you share things about your inner life, your fears, dreams, struggles. One woman noticed that whenever someone tried to deepen a conversation, she would make a joke to lighten the mood. When she stopped doing this and allowed for moments of seriousness, her friendships completely transformed. The benefit of recognizing these patterns is that you gain the power to change them. You stop being a victim of superficial relationship and become a co-creator of deep connections. When you allow yourself to be seen for real, you attract people who also want authentic connections. And gradually, your social life fills up with relationships that truly nourish your soul, instead of leaving it feeling empty. Tip 5. Learn to create emotional intimacy without fear. Emotional intimacy is what transforms superficial relationships into deep connections that truly eliminate feelings of loneliness. But many people are afraid of emotional intimacy because it requires vulnerability, and vulnerability can feel dangerous. There's a fear of being judged, rejected, or having your emotions minimized or used against you. So you maintain a safe distance. But that distance is exactly what leaves you feeling lonely around other people. Emotional intimacy doesn't mean telling your entire life story to just anyone. It means gradually sharing your true feelings, thoughts, and experiences with people who show you trust and respect. It's about letting someone see beneath the surface, about your real fears and joys, your doubts and certainties. It's about creating a space where you can be complex humans together, not just social characters. To build emotional intimacy, start small. Instead of automatically saying, "I'm fine," try sharing how you're really feeling. "I'm feeling a little anxious today," or "I'm happy because I was able to solve a problem that was bothering me." Notice how the person responds. If they show genuine interest and empathy, keep going deeper. If they change the subject or downplay their feelings, you know that this person may not be the right fit for this type of connection. A practical example: a woman would often have conversations about general topics with her neighbors. One day, she decided to share that she had been feeling a bit lost since her children left home. To her surprise, 2 of her neighbors opened up about similar feelings, and an informal support group was born that meets weekly for deeper conversations. The benefit of emotional intimacy is that it creates real bonds between people. When you let someone really get to know you, and you also get to know them beyond the surface, you become genuinely important to each other. That's the difference between having acquaintances and having people who genuinely care about you. And when you have people who genuinely care, emotional loneliness simply disappears. Tip 6. Discover how your unrealistic expectations sabotage your relationships. Often, the loneliness we feel doesn't come from the lack of people in our lives, but from the unrealistic expectations we place on those people and relationships. These expectations act as filters that prevent us from seeing and appreciating the love and connection that already exists around us. It's like wearing foggy glasses and complaining that you can't see clearly, when in fact the problem is with your glasses, not your vision. Unrealistic expectations can include thinking that one person should meet all of your emotional needs, that your friends should always be there for you when you need them, that your family should understand and support your every decision, or that people should show you love in exactly the way you want them to. When reality doesn't match these expectations, you feel disappointed, rejected, and alone, even when the people around you genuinely care about you. These expectations often come from romantic ideas about relationships that we learn from movies, books, or social media. But real relationships are made up of imperfect people with their own limitations, problems, and particular ways of showing affection. Your friend may not call you every day, but she may show affection in other ways that you're not noticing because you're focused on what she doesn't do. To identify unrealistic expectations, take note of your feelings of disappointment in relationships. When you feel hurt or neglected, ask yourself, what expectations were not met? Are these expectations fair and realistic? One woman realized that she felt lonely because she expected her adult son to call her every day, as he did when he lived at home. When she realized that he showed love in other ways, such as visiting on weekends and remembering important dates, she no longer felt rejected. The benefit of adjusting unrealistic expectations is that you start to see and appreciate the love that already exists in your life. Instead of focusing on what people don't do, you notice what they do. Your relationships become more harmonious because you stop demanding impossible things. Most importantly, you feel more connected and loved because you can finally see the unique ways each person expresses affection for you. Tip 7. Stop seeking external validation to feel complete. One of the most common traps that keeps us stuck in emotional loneliness is the constant search for external validation. This happens when you only feel valued, important, or complete when you receive approval, praise, or attention from other people. It's as if your self-esteem is a cell phone that needs to be constantly charged by other people's batteries. And when that external battery isn't available, you feel empty and alone. This dependence on external validation creates a vicious cycle. The more you seek external validation, the less connected you become to yourself. And when you're not connected to yourself, it becomes impossible to create genuine connections with others. You become a person who is always trying to please, always conforming to what you think others want to see, always measuring your worth by how others react. The problem is that this search for validation never really ends. Even when you receive praise or attention, the good feeling is temporary. Soon you crave more, as if it were an addiction. And in the moments when you don't receive this external validation, you feel rejected, insignificant, and deeply alone, even if nothing concrete has happened to justify these feelings. To break this pattern, start noticing when you seek external validation. Notice when you post something on social media expecting likes, when you tell a story expecting a specific reaction, or when you feel bad because someone didn't respond the way you expected. One woman noticed that she felt terrible whenever her posts received few likes, as if that meant she didn't matter to anyone. The benefit of developing internal validation is liberating. You stop being held hostage by the mood, availability, or opinions of others. Your sense of worth and completeness comes from within, from acknowledging your own qualities, achievements, and personal growth. When you feel complete in your own right, your interactions with others become more authentic and relaxed because you are no longer desperately trying to extract validation from every conversation or encounter. Tip 8. Understand how emotional isolation drives people apart. There's an important difference between being physically alone by choice and emotionally isolating yourself out of fear or protection. Emotional isolation happens when you build walls around your heart to avoid being hurt, rejected, or disappointed. It sounds like a clever protective strategy, but it's actually the biggest contributor to chronic feelings of loneliness, because these walls that keep out pain also keep out love and connection. When you isolate yourself emotionally, the people around you start to feel that distance, even if they can't explain exactly what they're feeling. They notice that you're not really present, that you're not allowing yourself to be touched by conversations, shared moments, or displays of affection. Over time, they may start to pull away, not because they don't like you, but because they feel like you're not truly available for real connection. Emotional isolation can manifest itself in many ways. You may keep conversations superficial, avoid talking about your feelings, refuse to accept help even when you need it, or fail to show affection even when you feel it. You may change the subject when someone tries to get emotionally close, or you may shut down when you realize you're starting to care too much about someone. To recognize if you're emotionally isolating yourself, notice how you react when someone tries to get close to you. Do you feel uncomfortable? Do you feel like running away? Do you make excuses to keep your distance? One woman noticed that whenever someone showed her genuine affection, she would immediately find reasons to pull away or criticize them, as if she couldn't believe she was worthy of being loved. The benefit of acknowledging and gradually letting go of these emotional barriers is that you allow real connections to flourish in your life. Yes, this means accepting the risk of being hurt at times, but it also means opening up to the possibility of being deeply loved and understood. When you stop shielding yourself from all emotion, you can finally experience the good emotions that make life rich and relationships fulfilling. Tip 9. Learn the difference between healthy solitude and destructive isolation. Not all alone. Time is harmful or a sign of problematic loneliness. There is a fundamental difference between healthy solitude, which is mindful and nurturing time with oneself, and destructive isolation, which is an avoidance of human connection motivated by fear, anger, or hopelessness. Understanding this distinction is crucial because many people feel guilty about enjoying alone time, or they confuse unhealthy isolation with a natural need for personal space. Healthy solitude is when you consciously choose to spend time alone to reconnect with yourself, process experiences, recharge emotionally, or simply enjoy your own company. It's time that leaves you feeling more balanced, clearer about your feelings, and more prepared to genuinely connect with others. You feel at peace, not anxious or sad about being alone. Destructive isolation happens when you avoid people because you feel inadequate, afraid of rejection, or because you've lost hope of finding meaningful connections. This type of isolation is often accompanied by negative feelings like sadness, anxiety, anger, or hopelessness. Instead of recharging you, it drains your energy and leaves you feeling worse about yourself and your relationships. To distinguish between the two, notice how you feel before, during, and after your alone time. In healthy solitude, you feel good about the decision to be alone, enjoy the time, and feel renewed afterward. In destructive isolation, you feel obligated to be alone, feel empty or sad during the time, and are even more discouraged from seeking out companionship afterward. Here's a practical example. One woman realized that on weekends when she chose to stay home and read or do activities she enjoyed, she felt good and refreshed. But when she stayed home because she felt inadequate to go out or meet people, she ended the weekend feeling worse and more isolated. Learning the difference helped her seek solitude when she needed it and companionship when isolation was becoming detrimental. The benefit of understanding this difference is that you stop feeling guilty about needing alone time, and you also stop using isolation as an escape from relationship issues that need to be addressed. You develop a healthier relationship with both solitude and socialization, using each at the appropriate time to nurture your emotional well-being. Tip 10. Discover how to build a real emotional support network. The last and perhaps most important insight into how to overcome feelings of loneliness is to understand that you need to actively build a support network, not wait for it to magically appear in your life. A real support network isn't just a list of contacts on your phone or people you see occasionally. It's a group of people with whom you have authentic connections, who know the real you, and who you can count on in all sorts of situations. Many people make the mistake of thinking that a support network means having lots of friends or a large family, but in reality, it's much better to have 3 or 4 people who really care about you than 20 superficial acquaintances. Your support network can include family, friends, neighbors, colleagues, or even people you meet in common interest groups. It's not the number that matters, but the quality of your connections. To build this network, you need to be intentional. This means investing time and energy in relationships that have the potential to deepen. It means being the person who takes the initiative, who invites others, who asks how others are doing, who offers help, who remembers important dates. Too often we wait for others to make the first move, but if everyone is waiting, no one will move. It's also important to diversify your support network. Different people can provide different types of support. Maybe one friend is great for talking about relationships, another is great for talking about work, and a family member is ideal for practical advice. Don't expect one person to meet all of your emotional needs. A real-life example. A woman felt very lonely after she was widowed. Instead of isolating herself, she joined a gardening group, volunteered at a charity, and invited neighbors over for tea. Gradually, she built a strong network of people who cared about her and who she genuinely cared about in return. The benefit of having a real emotional support network is that you never feel truly alone again, even when you are physically alone. You know that there are people who care about you, who are there for you when you need them, and who value your presence in their lives too. This emotional security completely transforms your relationship with loneliness and with relationships in general. So now you know why you always felt alone, even when you were surrounded by people. And most importantly, you know exactly what to do to change that. Remember that building authentic connections is a gradual process, but each small step you take towards vulnerability and authenticity will bring you closer to relationships that truly fill your heart. Emotional loneliness doesn't have to be a permanent sentence in your life. You have the power to transform this experience starting today by applying these strategies one at a time. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these tips touched your heart the most? Which one did you identify with the most? Leave your experience in the comments because your story can help other people who are going through the same situation. And remember, you are not alone on this journey of discovering deeper and more meaningful connections.